Hello everyone, welcome back to our Bible reading. It is April 27th and we're here doing our next 4 Bible readings. We're so excited that you are back with us and hope you've been blessed by these couple last gatherings. And we hope that as you continue, you will also continue to read, glean, and beam for Jesus throughout all these readings. We're now in Numbers chapter 4, Psalms 38, Song of Solomon chapter 2, and Hebrews chapter 2. Let's dive right in. We're here in Numbers chapter 4, and we're reading on the census of what the specific tribes of those, the clans and the Levites, are doing in the service of the tabernacle. And I love the details as it goes on about this. It says to Moses in verse 1, to tell Aaron to take a census of the Kohathites, separate from the other Levites by their clans and their ancestral houses. And they're asking them to go from a specific age 30 to 50 years old. This is an age maybe of maturity, of an age of service, of an act of, you might be an adult, you might be married, you might have kids, you might be, in this place where you are now serving and leading in a place of service to God. Remember, we had those younger ones. Now we're talking about those who are older. This is your work. This is your livelihood. You are dedicated completely to the work of God. So notice the Levites, even though there's a kingdom of priests, we've seen here, there's a specific duty of carrying out the specific labor, as it were, of the sanctuary itself. And we're going to go into those details of what each clan amongst the Levites is told to do. So for the Kohathites, it is age 30 to age 50, and you're going to see this throughout all the groups. And they're to do all who qualify to do the work of the tent of meeting concerning the most holy things. Okay. Verse 5, it says, Aaron and his sons shall go into and take down the screening curtain, cover the Ark of the Covenant with different color cloths. The first one is a spreadsheet over the cloth that is blue over the table of the bread of the presence. It shall be a blue cloth. Put it over the plates, the dishes, the incense, the bowls, the drinks, and then spread over then a crimson cloth. So first you have a blue one, then you have a red one. Notice the colors. When you are looking at Jesus in the New Testament, all the Pharisees have like a blue tassels at the bottom, right? But as you see, what color does blue and red, when you put them together, what does it make? It makes purple, the color of royalty. Jesus, when he was there on the cross, they put like a purple garb on him to remind him that he is a king. That's the color of royalty. And so we see that also here, that there is a blue and there is a red. And so great imagery of who we serve. God is our king. God is our king in who he is. You shall take a blue cloth, cover the lampstands with a light. Verse 9, and it goes on. Put it with all the utensils and the covering of fine leather. So now the utensils are covered with a leather. Now over the golden altar they shall spread a blue cloth, cover with coverings of fine leather. Take the utensils of the service that are used in the sanctuary, put them in a blue cloth. Okay, so you're seeing the covering of utensils with the blue cloth, with the crimson cloth, and covering in leather, because they're traveling. They're in a wilderness. They go from place to place to place. They set everything up, then they close it back up, and you can't just throw it inside of a wagon and expect no scratches. Remember, a lot of these things are made out of wood, acacia wood, and then they're dipped and covered in gold. They're not solid gold. And so you could imagine if they're constantly opening and closing, these things could get scratched, the gold can come off, and it would just be wood, and it wouldn't be very appealing and have the same sanctity and the holiness. You see how sacred they are being with these holy items, so much so that we should also keep that in mind with our bodies, which are also the temple, but also where we worship. The sanctuary should be a sacred place, a clean place, a beautiful place, because it marks the presence of God that brings us that awe and respect and a worshipful presence and environment where we could be in. When Aaron and his sons have finished covering the sanctuary, all the furnishings of the sanctuary, and shall camp set out, after that the Kohathites shall come and carry these things. So their job was to carry all of these items, but they must not touch the holy things or they will die. So there's specifics. We will clean it up, you will carry, but don't touch like the most holy place or those items in there or some of the other sacred things. Don't even lift up these coverings that are covered. Just carry them with their covering. Interesting. Verse 16, Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, shall have charge of the oil for the light, the fragrance incense, regular grain offerings, anointing oil, tabernacle, that is in the sanctuary and its utensils. So they're touching the sacred items that are to be marked in there. You must not let the tribe of the clan of the Kohathites be destroyed from among the people. This is how you are to deal with them in order that they may live and not die. So you got to make sure, sons of Aaron, Eleazar, to cover these items which are sacred, which is holy to God. Let them carry it, but make sure they're covered. Verse 20, but the Kohathites must not go into or look on the holy things even for a moment, otherwise they would die. Can you imagine be a Kohathite? You're in charge to carry all these things, but you're not allowed to open it, sneak peek, or look. You got to make sure Aaron does, and his son Eleazar, all of them do their jobs, because if not, that's your life. You see the sacredness, but also the tenderness. You're supposed to take care of these things. And the Lord took a census to Moses of the Gershonites also for their ancestral houses, and once again the same thing, age 30 to 50, to do the quality of the work in the tent of meeting. Well, what are they to do? Their service of bearing the burden, carrying the curtains. So now they're talking about not just the utensils, which is the Kohathites, which is supposed to be covered. Now you're looking at the Gershonites. They're supposed to be carrying the outer layer, or the outer curtains surrounding the whole tent of meeting that set up the boundaries. Carry the curtains of the tabernacle, the tent of the meeting, the outer coverings of fine leather, the screen of the entrance, the hangings of the court, the screen of the entrance of the gate, the cords, the equipment of the service. All of these are to be the Gershonites, and you shall assign it to their charge to carry it. This is the service of the clan of the Gershonites, their responsibility under the oversight of Aaron. So Aaron has a lot of responsibility, seeing over all these Levites, all these different clans, to make sure they're doing their job. That's a heavy task. Then the next group, the Merorites, you shall enroll them by their clans and their ancestral houses. Once again, age 30 to age 50. We're in verse 30 now. And this is what they are charged to carry. What are they charged to carry? The service of the tent, the frames, the tabernacles, the bars, the pillars, the bases, the pillars of the courts, the bases, the pegs, the courts. Everything that's the foundation, pretty much, once again, they are to carry it. And notice the age, 30 to 50. This is the group that is charged with taking care of. This is their livelihood. This is their mission. This is their purpose in the group. Verse 33, this is the service of the clans of the Merorites under the hand of Ithamar, son of Aaron, the priest. So Moses and Aaron, leaders of the congregation, enroll the Kohathites and their clans, age 30 to 50. Everyone who qualified, there was 2,750. Now we're going to go through a bunch of clans, and they're like, wow, there's so many people. Do they need that many people to carry these items in the sanctuary? Is it that many? Is it that heavy? Is it that big? Well, yeah, it is, but you could also think about it as a rotation. They're not doing it every single time. There might be people rotating to carry this. We see that in our church worship service. We might hopefully, ideally, have multiple people singing, multiple people going up and doing different parts, multiple deacons, multiple things. You can't just have the same people. You have a rotation. You spread it out. This is something that's holy, it's set apart, and you are privileged to do it. So it's not something people looked at as a heavy duty, but as a privilege. This is their job, this is their livelihood to carry these things out. Let's look at the next group, the Gershonites, age 30 to 50. There's 2,630 of the Gershonites. Verse 42, the Merorites, age 30 to 50 years old, there's 3,200 Merorites. And then it says this in verse 46, all those who were enrolled on the Levites and Moses and Aaron and all the leaders of the house, there was 30 to 50 years old, there was 8,580. Of all these different groups, that's the total, and they're charged with taking care of the sanctuary. What a beautiful, beautiful task and beautiful job to do the job of the service to the Lord. We are now here on Psalm 38, and I love this chapter once again because it reminds us of when we mess up, how God treats us, because David is crying out to God, asking for his protection. It says this in verse 1, "O Lord, do not rebuke me in your anger." When you make a mistake, your father or your children, and they know they make a mistake, they're like, oh no, I'm going to get in trouble. I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to receive the wrath. Here, you're seeing it, Lord, please do not rebuke me in your anger or discipline me in your wrath. For your arrows, they sink into me. There is no soundness in my flesh. There is no health in my bones because of my sin. When you do wrong and you're in love with, your father, your mother, it hurts you more than the discipline, the physical discipline that they give you. It actually hurts you as a parent. because you know that you love them and you see them crying, but you want what's best for them. And so you see here that there is this hurt even on the receiving end of a child. Even as we know God loves us, he disciplines us, and you can see it. You see the relationship. This is what I'm trying to emphasize. You see the relationship here. Verse 4, for my iniquities have gone over my head. The weight is like a burden. I like to go to verse 8 because I think this is powerful. It says, I am utterly spent. I am crushed. I groan because of the tumult of my heart. There is a crushing spirit when you have that relationship with God as David does. When you have sinned, it is heavy on your heart and you want to make things right, and you realize you're being crushed by the guilt. You're being crushed by the mistake. That's the kind of relationship that we want with God. There's Bible verses out there that say, break my heart, Lord. For you, break my heart for your gospel, break my heart so that whatever breaks your heart breaks mine. This is the kind of relationship David has, and it's a beautiful thing because he's sensitive to the Spirit. Verse 12, those who seek my life lay snares. Those who seek to hurt me speak of ruin and meditate treachery all day long. Look, David saying, I know I make mistakes. I know I mess up. But Lord, do not let my enemies overcome me. Do not let them destroy me, because I feel like all they're doing is meditating day and night when I'm going to mess up, and they look for me to mess up. Let's go to verse 16. I say this, for I pray only, do not let them rejoice over me, those who boast against me when my foot slips. Lord, do not let me be put to shame. Let me follow you all the days of my life. Let me do the right thing. Let me do the holy thing, the godly thing. And even those who try to rejoice over my falling, God, I know you will lift me up. It's all focused on God. It's all focused on the relationship with God. Come what may, there is a uniqueness, a tightness, a deep sense of intimacy with God and David, and it's beautiful. And then he gives this beautiful prayer confession in verse 18. I confess my iniquity. I am sorry for my sin. Those who are my foes without cause are mighty, and many are those who hate me for wrongfully. Those who render me evil for good are my adversaries, because I follow after good. I know I mess up, but I know I follow after God. I know I do my best. I know I am repentant of him constantly, and I know God is changing me and molding me to who he wants me to be. What a beautiful prayer that we see from David. And he ends by saying this, make haste to help me, O Lord, God of my salvation. Song of Solomon, chapter 2. Now this one is interesting, because remember in chapter 1 we talked about the dating phase. They're looking at each other, they're seeing each other from a distance, they're sizing each other up, but now it's a little bit more intimate. Notice the word here, I am a rose of Sharon, a lily in the valley. If you look at the lily of the valley, this is a place in Israel, I believe, where just these flowers grow, and the rose of Sharon is something beautiful to look at. It stands out. And so he's saying that you stand out amongst the rest. And she goes into this even more and says it amongst here. As a lily among brambles, so is my love among maidens. As an apple, now is it once again the metaphors as we talked about. As an apple tree among the trees of wood, so is my beloved among young men. With great delight I sat in his shadow, just to be in the presence of my beloved, just to be able to see him, just to be able to be around him. It sends my heart aflutter. Beautiful, beautiful picture of the love that these have. He says, verse 4, he brought me into his banqueting table, his banner over me, his love. We see that in a Bible verse. He brought me to his banqueting table, his banner over me, his love, his banner over me, his love. His banner is a form of authority. God's banner over us. It's actually a name for God. The Lord is my banner. The Lord is like a flag over us, that when we're in times of war, we see the flags of Israel, we see the flags, we know safety is coming, we know protection is coming, we know authority is coming. So this thing of his banner is over me is meaning his power, his outstretched arms are over me. I feel safe on the strong arms of God. And she's using that in an example of the relationship. I feel safe with my beloved. What a beautiful, beautiful expression of love. He brought me to his banqueting table, his banner, his tensions over me, his love. Sustain me with raisins, fresh with me with the apples, for I am faint with love. Oh, with his left hand was under my head, and his right hand would embrace me. So now we're getting a picture here of a sexual contact, of a sexual intimate picture of her yearning for her husband, or yearning for this one to be to be intimate with her. As you can see the imagery that's being put here. Oh, that his left hand were under my head and his right hand would embrace me behind her lower back. So you're seeing this sense of intimacy, this sense of intensive action. And then you notice the very deep theological thing that is very important here in verse 7. And it says, I adjure you, or daughters of Jerusalem, speaking to the people of God, to Christians, to believers. I'm speaking to you, by the gazelles or by the wild does, all these young, strong men, these young, beautiful women, these people ready to be married in the season of spring of their life, as it were. Do not stir up or awaken love until it's ready. There is a time and a place to be intimate. And what is being emphasized here is when it is ready, when you are married, when you are together. Do not stir this up until it's ready, because as you will read later on, love is like a flame of fire. And fire, when used in the wrong context, could burn you. Used in the right context, it could bring light. It could bring warmth. It could be the most beautiful thing. And so notice here, I adjure you, I beg you, I plead you, do not play with this thing until it is time, until the season is ready. Verse 8, the voice of my beloved calls. Look, he comes leaping upon the mountains, bounding over the hills. My beloved is like a gazelle. He is beautiful. He is gorgeous to look at. He is like a young stag. He's like a horse. He is strong. He is ruddy, as it says of Joseph and David. Look, there he stands behind the walls, gazing at the windows. He's just stalking me, as it were. I'm not saying stalk people, but when you see someone and you're in love with them, you just can't take your eyes off them. My beloved speaks to me and says, arise, my love, my fair one, come away with me. For now the winter is past, the rain is over. Look, it's time for us. This is our season. This is our time of life. Let us be together. The flower appeals on the earth. The time of spring has come. The voice of the turtle doves is heard in the land. He's giving this beautiful picture of life, of saying, look where we are. Look where we are in our lives. Look what you have. Look what I have. Let's make a life together. This beautiful picture of this is the time. Do not wake love till it's ready. And now he's saying, look, it's time. Let's be one. Let's be together. The fig tree puts forth his like figs, and the vines are in blossom. They give forth their fragrance, just this aromatic, just falling in love, as it were. Just this expression is what it's giving of all the things that it does to your mind, your heart, your body, your emotions, everything. It's such a beautiful picture. O my dove, in the clefts of the rock, in the covert of the cliffs, let me see your face. Let me hear your voice, for your voice is sweet. There are times in a relationship, as you're beginning to desire and love each other, that there's moments where you have moments of fear of opening up, of a sense of distrust from just life in general, or maybe something that's happened in the past. And so you see the picture that's been given here is that someone is hiding, someone is hesitant. They're hiding in the cleft of the rock. They're unsure whether to come out or to stay in. And as if he's saying, it's okay, you can come out. You can trust me. I will take care of you. I will love you. You don't have to go into hiding. You can be open. You can share. And you see this little example in the picture that's here, because you see that in relationships also as well. People are in love. They want to be together, but yet they're hesitant, or they're unsure if they should marry, or they're unsure if they should be together. And you see this imagery as if someone's hiding in a rock, hiding in a cliff, and people are saying, it's okay. And once you pass those stages of distrust or uncertainty, it's those moments that bring you even stronger together. Verse 16, my beloved is mine and I am his. He pastures his flock among the lilies until the day breathes and the shadow flees. Turn, my beloved, be like a gazelle or a young stag on the cleft of the mountains. He's out there in the world serving and working. She's out there working and serving. And I can't wait for us to be together. What a beautiful picture of this couple coming together as they're looking to start a life together. Beautiful imagery, beautiful picture. Now we're in Hebrews chapter 2. So based on Jesus, as we read in Hebrews chapter 1, that he is God. He's not an angel. He's given authority. He was there at creation. He's done all these things based on that. Therefore, we must pay greater attention to what we've already heard so that we do not drift away. Remember, these people, the Hebrews, right? It's written to the Hebrews, to the Jews, to the believers who don't believe in Jesus or who are still uncertain if what he's saying is true. And Paul, or I believe it's Paul who's writing the book of Hebrews, who's trying to write to them to say, this Jesus is who the Old Testament says. He is the fulfillment. He's the Messiah. He's the anointed one. And so because we want you to share, because we want you to believe the gospel that we're presenting, do not be drift away from the lies of the past or from what other people are saying, because he is the one. Declares the angel, if the message declared through angels was valid and every transgression or disobedience received a just penalty, how can we escape if we neglect so great a salvation? How can we escape knowing that Jesus came, he gave his life, he lived, he died, he rose again? How could we escape if he forgave all sins? Why would we still be going back to sacrifices? Why would we still be going back to all these other ways? Let's make things right and accept him as Lord. Verse 5, now God did not subject the coming world about which we are speaking to angels, but someone has testified this somewhere. Notice what it says, quoting the Old Testament. But what are humans that you are mindful of them, of mortals that you care for them? You have made them a little lower than the angels. You have crowned them with glory and honor. Notice what it says about humans, glory and honor. And what did Jesus become? He became man. So even Jesus becoming man, he's still above the angels. If you think about it, saying, well, he's like an angel, or he's this. Being human is even above the angels because of the sacrifice that Jesus did for us. Notice as it goes into that, and it says, God left nothing outside of their control, right? Because humans are here. We are to rule and to multiply and have dominion over the earth. But notice what it says about Jesus. But now do we see Jesus, verse 9, who for a little while was made lower than the angels, now crowned with the glory and honor because of the suffering of his death. Jesus has the authority and power, not just of God himself as he always has, but now even more so because he came to this earth and he conquered death. That's the issue. He conquered death. He conquered death. He rose again, and he gave that power to us to also rise again because he rose. Notice what it says. It is fitting that God, whom through all things exist, in bringing many children to glory, should make the pioneer of their salvation perfect through suffering. So if Jesus went through suffering, guess what? We probably will too. But he perfected it, and he made the pathway so that we can follow. For this reason, Jesus is not ashamed to call them brothers and sisters, because we too will go through suffering. And when we go through it, we are literally able to tap into that and say, we can call Jesus brother. We, as sisters, could also call him brother. I proclaim your name to my brothers and sisters, and again, I will put my trust in him. Here I am, the children whom God has given me. I love this in verse 14 where it says this, the children share flesh and blood. He himself likewise shared the same things, so that through death he might destroy the one who had power over death. That is the devil. You see, the devil brought sin into this world. He brought death into this world, and only Jesus can save it. And because of what Jesus has done, we too can have victory over death. That's powerful. That's the gospel. Verse 15, and we freed those who all their lives were held in slavery by fear of death. We know that this life is not there's more. There's the second coming, there's heaven. And so because of that, we can live in boldness, we can live in confidence. We don't have to live in fear of death or anything. What a beautiful promise. For it is clear that he did not come up to help angels, but the descendants of Abraham, which are those who live by faith. Therefore, he has become like a brother and a sister in every respect, so that he might be merciful, faithful, high priest in the service of God. Isn't that awesome? Because Jesus came, he knows what it is to be human. He knows what it is to go through suffering. But because of that, he also knows what it is to go through the pain. And because of that, he could be even more empathetic, but also he's merciful and he's faithful. Isn't that powerful? When you go through something, you're able to empathize more with people. When you go through something, you could relate to them. And that's the beautiful what Jesus did. He can relate to every person on this earth because of what he went through. And he's our high priest. And he made atonement for sins of all people because he himself was tested by what he suffered. There is a testing in our suffering because it builds character. It builds us closer to God. It helps us to touch the wounds of his hands almost and be able to know what he went through. And because we go through it, we ought to also conquer. If we go through it, it might as well trust him to see you through. He is able to help those who are being tested. What a beautiful promise. May you continually read, glean, and beam for Jesus.